Wes started articulating basically the gospel message. And Andrew Schultz's response was like, you're calling this good news, but it seems like this is something that's only good news to people who think that they're a piece of bleep.
When I study world religions, I come up with this conclusion that all all worldview perspectives are some form of survival of the fittest, in that it's a do this, feel this, or think this, right? It's do this, pragmatism, it's feel this, emotionalism, or it's think this, intellectualism, right? You need to be the best at the knowledge, you need to, be the most spiritual, you need to do the most things, and it's one or a combination of those things, right? Christianity is the opposite of that, in that it says you can't feel, think, or do good enough.
Oof.
Right? So it's not about that. It's not do and you'll be accepted, feel and you'll be accepted, think and you'll be accepted. It's God has stepped out of eternity and into humanity in the second person of the Trinity in Jesus. And now you're accepted. Now you can think, now you can feel, now you can do, but it's not on your shoulders.
I get that it's supposed to alleviate it, but in order for it to alleviate it, you first have to accept that you're a piece of shit. And what if you don't feel like you're a piece of shit?
Right.
So now I have to stop feeling good about myself, and I have to convince myself that I am a piece of shit.
Just as much as a murderer, child molester.
Right.
Just so somebody else can get me back to, or not somebody else, God can get me back to feeling good about myself. And I think that really works for people who feel like they're a piece of shit all the time. But if you don't feel like a piece of shit, to convince yourself that you are, and the only way out of your piece of shitness is to believe in this one person who will then, through that belief, convince you to do the good and kind acts that you were already doing prior. I can see how that's like a heavy weight for people to take on.
I don't need Christianity to make me feel bad in order to make me feel good, because I already feel good. And I thought that was one of the best articulations of how people kind of misunderstand Christianity.
Yes, 100%. Why are you going to go look for a savior if you feel like you don't need one?
Exactly. And really the question, and I did a commentary video about this, and it's an obvious point, but the point is basically, if Wes's assessment of the human condition is right, then Andrew is completely out of touch with reality and completely out of touch with the path to redemption. However, if Andrew's actually right, and he really is a fully self-actualized, morally perfect being, then he's actually right. And Wes is actually crazy to try and give him this gospel message that makes him feel bad, which basically tells him a lie that he needs help when he doesn't really need help, tells him a lie that he's dirty when he's really clean, tells him a lie that he needs to be forgiven when he's already righteous, tell him some lie that he is condemned when he's actually not condemned. So that's, if you follow what I'm saying, I thought it was one of the clearest moments I've seen in podcast or media or whatever, where it's like, this really is precisely the point of disagree. This is precisely the point of offense of the gospel message. If someone views themselves as literally like, that is not relevant to me, I don't need any of that, and shame on you for trying to lie to me that I need assistance from on high, that I need forgiveness from Jesus, that I need anything because I'm doing great. Basically, was his response. So what do you think about that?
Oh, that's so good that you bring that up. I have not watched that whole thing, but Andrew has made himself a problem. Number one, he's made his own standard, right? I don't know what his beliefs are, but again, this is what we do. We make our own standard of what good is. Okay. And say, for example, let's pretend for a second that the standard of goodness can be measured in your ceiling, like a 6-foot ceiling. Okay. Now, let's say you and I are standing there, and how good you are is how high you can jump and touch the ceiling. Okay. So you jump, and you might be a better jumper than me, or higher jumper, and you might be slightly better than me, right? We're like, oh, okay, you're slightly better than me. If that's the standard, though, we're still pretty good, right? So that's what we have created. But here's the problem: is that That's a human standard, and God's standard, let's pretend that it's like Jupiter. They're outer rings of, it might as well be to the ends of the universe. Now try to jump again. It's like compared to Jupiter or compared to Pluto, the edge of the galaxy, you're a terribly lousy jumper.
Or the edge of the flat Earth for those in our audience. Sorry, go ahead.
Speaking of conspiracy and mistrust.
I watched your episode on that, by the way. That was great. But sorry, go ahead. You're making a real theological point. Go.
Yeah, man. But yeah, it's like by that standard, that's the standard. This is what Romans is saying. Okay, this is what Romans is saying, is that you fall miserably short. Your standard is short. So Andrew, maybe he's made a standard of the ceiling, right? Like, so to speak, this is metaphorical. But the other problem he has, okay, and this is where a thinker like me, somebody gets a lot of satisfaction out of somebody like Wes, right?
Or the fact that sometimes we can't stop doing something that we want to stop doing. I want to transition here for a second to talk about pornography consumption, because if you look at pornography, you need to be aware of and understand what relay is. I know that's a bold transition, but honestly, as Christians and even just as a culture, I believe we need to take a more bold stance against this. If you're listening to this, you probably know the statistics on how damaging pornography is to the body, to the brain, and even at a spiritual level, it is just so destructive. It pulls you into isolation and shame that the enemy of God thrives on. Relay is a community-based app to help you on your porn-free journey. There's a lot of different features in Relay that make it effective. Check it out for yourself. It gives you daily accountability, evidence-based skills, and a supportive community that will enable you to break the porn cycle if you are caught in one. Relay is so confident, in fact, that you'll see results in 30 days that they give you a money-back guarantee if you don't. Guys, just look at the testimonials. Literally, thousands of men are seeing real change, and many of these cases, they're saving their marriages or their families. Even if you're single, any person breaking free from this addiction is doing something good. You're regaining respect towards women, towards yourself, and ultimately towards God. Don't keep this in the shadows. Don't punt it to your future self to solve. Take a stand today. Click the link in the description and use my code WISDOM to get 7 days free. Pause the video now. Join Relay. Thank me later. Now back to the video.
What do you do with this guy named Jesus who lived 2,000 years ago, who claimed to be God, prophesied his own death, was prophesied back in the Jewish scriptures thousands of years before he even existed? Very, very detailed, by the way. And then his followers, right? He claimed to rise again from the dead, right? His followers claimed this and died for it. Like, what do you do with this? How do you grapple with this guy, Jesus? Because if he is who he says he is, and that then verifies all these things that we see in the New and Old Testament, right? Then you have another problem. That means that what Wes is saying is true. And then God does exist, and that he did become his own creation and died and paid a sin debt that we could never pay. And it all makes sense. You don't even have to be a Christian to really see how that thread, that narrative makes perfect sense, right? That's the problem is he then has, is that you now have this other evidence to deal with and then deny because you think you're a good person and you're happy with yourself. Then you have another philosophical problem. Okay, so there's 3 problems from this that I see personally. And it's not just Andrew, it's a lot of people that kind of have this position. I don't know what his beliefs are, but then everybody has to deal with the problem of evil. And I think Frank Turek, he's done such a good job, in my opinion. Stealing from God is such a good book about this, in my opinion, because he deals with this problem where you think that evil disproves God, but it's like the opposite. It's the opposite. Evil actually has to prove that a God exists. And so the idea is that if God doesn't exist and there is the standard of what's good and bad is up to us, then who's to judge what's evil or good? We are. So you haven't, again, it's the dial, okay? It's like the dial. If Wes is wrong, and everything that he's explaining about humanity and God is wrong, then you have this mismatched dial that makes no sense under that worldview. Andrew might be happy, but what does that mean? What does that mean? if there's a level of something that goes on in his life, right, that something that goes every which way, there has to be a dead end. There has to be either intellectually or morally. And usually when people are happy, it's usually for a moral reason where it's like, oh, I don't have to really go this way or whichever which way. I don't want to go God's way because there's a reason that would deter me from going that way. That would mean I have to change the way I'm living. That's just one of many. It might be like a cliche thing to say, and some people might disagree, which is fine. But in my observation and experience, I do see that sometimes is used as a reason for people to be happy. And so, and the other thing I think it's clear is Romans does clearly say that there is a suppression of truth.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I grew up with a dad. He's a retired police officer. I have had always this thing with like true crime. I get very interested in why people do the things they do. And let me tell you, I have an inside joke with myself where I would create like this YouTube channel that it would be called I Didn't Do Anything. And all it would be is clips of criminals who obviously did something, claiming that they are innocent. They didn't do anything. You got it all wrong. I am not this. I am not that. I did not, right? Okay. I am floored at the justification for sin that we will make. Floored at how, especially in today's political and social cultural context that we live in, that you will see an outright offense, an evil, an injustice done, and people will justify it in mobs justify it. What does that say about our heart, right? Are they thinking, yes, this is the right thing to do? There's a happiness brought from this. So that just, there's a lot of problems that flow from that position. Those are just some of them. I could probably go on about that all day, but I think people can grasp what I mean.
Yeah, I think so. And I love how you're talking about the connection between evil and basically, I guess you could call it personal accountability. I've almost tried to think about it like a
hardened heart.
A hardened heart. Yeah, but it's almost like, it's funny, right? Because it's almost like, to use a little bit of an analogy, like there's an outbreak of this thing. There's an outbreak of evil on the planet very clearly. Turn on the news, it's everywhere. There's a pandemic of evil, moral evil. And the question is, have you been infected or not? And I think that it's a fairly audacious thing to say that you haven't been. In other words, the problem of evil is very real. The question is, have you contributed to it in any way? Or are you the one person who hasn't? Is it only out there? Is it only everybody else? Or are we all a part of the problem of evil? And that's the way I've tried to communicate it to people. I'm sure it's not the best way, but I think if we're honest, we have all contributed to the problem of evil. We've all done little things that are kind of, whatever, snowflakes in this giant snowball of evil that exist. And we've all kind of paid our dues into that thing, and maybe small ways and in maybe big ways. But I just think if someone's honest, including Andrew Schultz, it's like, we're not saying that you're a terrible, terrible person who is, we're just saying that you're a part of the problem that exists on this planet, that there is a contagion, a virus, however you want to put it. There is something that is plaguing our species, and it's very obvious. And I just don't think that anyone, if they're being honest with themselves, can say that they're the one exception to that.